Okay, we are live.
Check us
Veronica
out.
Bartles, and this is
Hi.
Fiona McLaren.
Hello. I'm going to try and not hang up by mistake.
So, Fiona, why don't you tell everyone about what you're mentoring for Pitch Wars?
Okay, I'm mentoring young adult. I actually narrowed down my wish list quite a lot this year. I was looking for folklore, urban fantasy, and alternate historicals. I did say I'd take a few curveballs, and I have had some in my inbox. Had a lot of submissions in my inbox, so that's what I'm looking for this year.
Cool. Um, so,
So what is it you're looking for, Veronica?
all right.
What's in
Well,
your
I'm looking for young adult, and I also really narrowed my wish list this year. Mostly contemporary. Although I do have a couple of other submissions in other genres that are still in the running, um, but probably 80% or more of my submissions were contemporary, because that's what I write and that's what people know me for.
See, I got less contemporary this time round because at the moment I'm writing folklore. So I did what you did. I kind of went for what I was writing and most comfortable in now. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah. So let me just quickly let everyone on Twitter know that we are live.
Oh, thank you, Natasha. You like my accent. These things make me happy. See, is it really bad that in Google Hangout I'm looking for a like button? I can tell it's my first time.
What's that?
I'm looking for a like button. I'm like, how do I like that? Evidently can't. Oh no, Belinda can't see anything.
Oh, well, let's see if. Can you hear us, Belinda?
No, she said she can't hear or see.
Okay.
We're
Let,
currently the invisible women. This is so not my domain at all. I'm lucky I learned how to get on here, never mind anything else.
yeah.
Like
Yeah,
I
this is
made
my
it.
first time hosting, so um, okay. Well, it
Currently the invisible women.
seems to be working for me.
This is so not my domain at all. I'm lucky I learned how to get on here, never mind anything else.
Yeah.
Ooh, like
Yeah,
I
this is
made
my first time
hosting,
hosting, so
so. Oh, if I see questions in the sidebar, can I answer them in the meantime?
yes.
Hi, Natasha. No, it's not my first year doing Pitch Wars. I mentored before, and my mentee got her book published, Awakenings. She is all kinds of awesome. And I pitched Wars the year after, and I'm hoping that I'll get some very good news about my mentee soon because she's waiting to hear back from an agent. Oh, there's so many questions. Oh, Joy likes my accent. This makes me happy. It's like a feel-good place for me right now. The only Scottish person in the midst.
Yeah, looks like everyone else is saying that they can
If
see and hear us, so maybe it's just Belinda.
Okay, I know that someone just put up a link to the YouTube one. If Belinda goes to that, then should she see us? Maybe?
Um, Probably.
Okay, let me just copy that link and give it to Belinda.
All right.
You can tell I'm administrator at heart, haven't I? Okay, so, right. Here's the link for Belinda. I'm just going to tweet that over to her. If I can
And
find it.
Sarah commented that the like button on Google is the +1 button.
Oh, the +1 button. Oh, I'm very happy now I know that. Thank you. All right, I've tweeted that over to Belinda, so hopefully that means she can see us. Hopefully. I'm
And Joy
really
is
happy that.
here to answer middle grade questions if anyone has any. She's just not
Oh,
on video. She's in the question and answer.
oh, is Joy joining us for the whole thing?
Yeah, I think she may be in and out with, she has children running around, and
Ah,
so she's not going to be on video, but she's in the Q&A app on the side. So if anyone has middle grade questions, we can put those through to her and she can answer.
oh, that's good. I don't feel
Oh,
alone.
oh, good. Belinda sees us now.
Oh, awesome. And she's part Scottish, I'm reading, which is awesome, and related to a king. I wish I was related to a king. Possibly, I'm possibly related to a shoemaker. I'm cool like that.
Okay. Talia asked, were there many surprises in your inboxes that didn't fit your asks, but you're considering anyway?
Do you want to go first?
I'll let you go first.
Aha. Don't give me a microphone, it's lethal. I actually had a few submissions, maybe about 20% of the submissions I had weren't in the genres I was expecting to get. In fact, one or two of them were in genres I said I didn't want. However, I absolutely loved a couple of them. Like, really, really liked a sci-fi this year. I didn't expect to get a sci-fi that I fell in love with because it wasn't particularly on my wish list, but it was really beautifully written. So I just think that goes to show that beautiful writing trumps all. You can have your favorite genres and your favorite picks that you're looking for, but if the writing's really, really good, it doesn't matter what genre you're in, you can easily fall in love with it. So that was my biggest surprise in my inbox.
Yeah, and
what about you?
I actually didn't really get any big surprises. People were really good at following my wish list, and so I got things that were pretty custom for me, which makes it really hard. I think I have on my short list more than 30% of my total submissions, so it's going to be really hard to narrow it down.
Oh, I don't envy you that. Narrowing it down is really tough. There's like 10 I want. Like, seriously, there's 10 I just want. I don't want to give them up.
Yeah.
It's the only hard thing. I want to keep them all, but I can't keep them all, so I want to convince other mentors to take them.
Yeah, I'm doing that a lot with mine too. I actually have at least 4 on my not for me list that I desperately want to read when they're finished. I just am not the right mentor to get them there.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think that's important. There's some that I know I can really help, and there's some I know I'm not my skill set, so they would be best with someone else. Oh, I
Okay.
see a question from Natasha.
All
She's
right.
asking if there's anything that we wanted to see but didn't get.
Ah, anything we wanted to see that we didn't get. Um, oh, there are so many titles that are being talked about among the mentors that it's like, oh, I really want to see that one too. Um, it's probably a good thing that we can't get into each other's slush boxes as easily this time around because I I guarantee it would make the selection process even harder if I could drool over some of these other titles as well.
Oh, there's so much truth in that. I was so naughty. I went on Right On Con and looked for all the titles that have been submitted to Pitch Wars just so I could see what they were like. It was a bad plan because there's a lot of stuff that I know went to other mentors that I really liked as well. It was actually a bit like torture.
Yeah.
There was a couple of things I really wanted to see that I didn't. I wanted to see, I seen a couple, but I wanted to see something like a novel in verse or something that was more epistolary in the way it was formed. I got a couple with some different structure, but I would have loved to have seen something that took big risks in the narrative, something that wasn't afraid to be really bold. I'd say that that's the only thing I wish I'd had a bit of in my inbox is something that was happy to break some of the rules.
Right. Um, so Brenda says, "Will you guys stop holding these awesome chats? I'm supposed to be writing."
No, definitely not.
Just wanted to stop by and hear Fiona's accent. Love you guys.
Who's that from? Joy?
That's from Brenda.
From Brenda. We love you too, Brenda.
We love you, Brenda. And yes, get back to writing. She's on deadline right now working on things. And I keep
Oh, deadline's a nightmare. I'm lucky I just finished up some deadline for my freelancing work. So I'm home free for the next few days.
nice.
I've discovered spare time and procrastinating all at the same time.
Oh, oh, here's a good question. Did you personally request all the partials and fulls you were interested in, or did you share with other mentors who had already requested them?
Oh, that is a good question. When I went through my inbox, I actually requested, I didn't look for what other people had said they were looking at. I actually just went on my gut and requested the voices that really spoke to me. However, there were some that I didn't feel the need to request, not because they didn't work for me, but because I liked enough what I saw that they were strong enough. So I had a really big mixture, but I didn't go off any other mentor's opinion. But it does weigh in after that. If I've requested something and I see another mentor's also requested it, it made me read a little closer on my second read through.
Yeah. I requested several manuscripts. There are some others that I have not requested that are still in consideration. And there are some that are being passed around back and forth where one person requested the full and someone else has, and one of the others of us has offered that full so that we don't have to wait to contact the author for it.
I did that with submissions. I've recommended and forwarded something on, or I'd recommended something that I really liked but didn't quite match what was good for me. I think that's a good thing about Pitch Wars, though, that every manuscript gets a really strong chance.
Yes. Oh, and Joy jumped in and answered the question about not getting something. She said, Sarah, there wasn't anything that I was hoping for and didn't get. I got too much awesome.
Lots of awesome this year. Lots
There
of
was.
awesome.
It was hard last year to make a choice because I had so many good submissions, and this year is even better.
I agree. This year it's insanely hard. There's so much talent.
Yeah.
I want them all to come to the agency inbox where I intern. I keep thinking I want to see these in my inbox at the agency. Where are they?
Yeah. Okay, Fiona. Natasha wants to know about your debut novel. Is it already out? What's it about?
Not yet. At the moment, it's under consideration, and it's folklore. It's about a young girl whose brother washes up dead on the shore of their island, and she sets out to find out what's happened, whether it's an accident, a murder, or the legends of the island come to life. We've just put in a proposal for the rest of the series based on the first book, so fingers crossed on good news soon. However, I had to put in a 12-book proposal, so that's been challenging, but it's looking good. Oh, and it's called The Cry of the Sea.
It's called what?
The Cry of the Sea.
Nice. Yes, and I told about my debut novel last night in the Google chat, but for those who weren't there, mine is 12 Steps. It came out in March, and it's a contemporary romance. And it's about a girl who's tired of living in her perfect older sister's shadow, and when her crush asks her to fix him up with her older sister, she decides that she needs a 12-step program for second-class siblings.
And it's awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Anyone who doesn't have it should go and get it. It really should.
Aw, love you.
I'm going to go and sit and endorse it on Twitter, going, buy Veronica's book. I'm like a promotion whore for other people's books that I love, and I'm like, buy it now.
Okay. Oh, Amy Kidd asks, in your mentor cave, do you all see each other, YA, adult, MG, etc.? I think she's asking, yeah, our private chat group, yes, we do all talk to each other among all the different categories.
I know I've spoke to a few authors, through a few mentors that have had books that they think aren't quite in the right category, but they can move up or down an age group. And there's been a lot of discussion between mentors or forwarding things like that on. I know I had one in my inbox that felt much more adult than it did young adult, and it's the type of thing I'd recommend on to another mentor in the group.
So, oh, and this one is for you, Fiona. Of those 10 manuscripts that you liked, did you ask for partials from any, all, or none of them?
Some, because I'm evil. I did some. Last year, I requested a full from my mentee and nothing from one of my alternates and a partial from an alternate. I want to keep the writers guessing as well, because I don't think that it necessarily reflects if you've asked for a full. It doesn't mean that you're the chosen choice. It can be, yes, I want the full because I love it, or it can be, yes, I want the full because I need to see where it's going to make a decision. Some books you don't need that. You don't need any more than just what you've got. And some you might need a little more. So I've done a mixture. What about you?
I'm the same. And I will say last year, I picked my mentee without requesting any other pages from her. I knew from the first page that this was the one that I wanted last year. And so, and it killed me through the whole selection process. She was getting more and more discouraged on Twitter, thinking that she was completely out of the running because she was hearing other people talk about the requests that they were getting. And I just wanted to get on there and say, don't give up, you're my choice. But
I had that with my alternate. I know my alternate last year was very close the year before. And then last year I didn't really say anything at all. I kept quiet and it was all, oh no, I'm really worried. I don't know if I'm going to get chosen. And I sat there thinking, no, you are. I just can't tell you. It's much more fun if you're surprised at the end.
yes, yes. So if you're not getting requests, don't get discouraged. So Joy commented, and she said that, Amy, part of what's so fun with Pitch Wars is the relationships, and getting to know other mentors is really a part of that, whether they're in your age category or not. So yes, lots of support, fun, and interaction. And yeah, I think that's the best. One of the best parts about Pitch Wars is that we get to be friends with the other mentors.
Well, the other mentors are awesome.
Yeah.
Really good. It's such a wonderful group, and they all work. There's a lot of work behind the scenes that people don't see, and a lot of the mentors are in really strict high deadlines. And like Brenda does an insane amount of work for the competition. She's like superwoman to the extreme, and everybody's really supportive and really friendly, which I like a lot.
Yeah. All right. And so, Sarah asked what it was about the first page that caught my attention last year. She says she hasn't gotten any requests, so she's hanging on our words here. Last year I was doing middle grade. This year I'm doing YA. But last year I asked for a middle grade novel that was contemporary, that could make me laugh and cry in the same manuscript. I got that on the first page.
Wow.
And the writing was tight and it was there, and I knew that if she could evoke that much emotion from me from the first page, that she would be okay through the rest of the manuscript. So I didn't even need to see any more.
I want to see that first page.
Well, I'll ask her if she can send it to you.
Good one. Yes, yes. I like the sound of that first page.
Yes. It was Naomi Milliner, and she's amazing. And she wrote this story about a boy who was dealing with his younger brother who was severely handicapped, and trying to go through the struggles and find his own voice in this family that was totally centered around his little brother's handicap. And so it was heartbreaking and funny at the same time.
That's a skill.
That is a skill. And that's...
If a writer can do that, then I'm with them for the whole book.
Yes. Yes, and if you can catch me in that first page or the first couple of pages, then I don't even need to see any more to know that I want to read this book. Okay. Let's see. Oh,
Oh,
Joy says
we
her kids are gone and she could get on video. Let me see if I can invite her in here.
yay! More people!
Let me see if I can do this without killing the feed.
I seen another question up from Natasha as well about word counts. She asked, did higher word counts in queries put you off, or are you just looking at the strength of the writing?
I will let you answer that while I try to invite Joy.
Um, for me, I know some mentors did look at word counts. If it was obscenely high or obscenely low, like by a big margin, then that would put me off a bit. However, too high or too low, if the writing's there and I feel like I've got the time scale to bring the word count to where it needs to be, then no, it's not a problem for me. Because sometimes if I read through a book and I can see straight away places it needs to be cut or straight away places that need to be added, then if it fits in the time scale, I'm happy to work with it. I'd say within the scope of pitch wars, it's probably easier to cut than it is to add, because if you're trimming excess fat from a manuscript, it's an easier job if it's very clear from the first read through. However, if it's a long manuscript and you read through it and it's a tough job to find places to trim, then that could be difficult in the scope of only having 2 months to work on it. Starting from a low word count, um, that's a more difficult job because it's really how much good quality writing can a writer do within 2 months, plus the mentoring on it as well. So it depends on the book.
Okay, I sent an invitation to Joy. Let's see if she gets it. And I did, for the word counts, I did obviously look at the word counts, and I kind of cringed if the word count was severely high or very low. But I also, if the writing is strong, um, I'm pretty good at slashing words, so a high word count is not going to put me off completely. And I'm also very good at finding the scenes that need to be beefed up. And so if a writer is willing to put in the effort to really work on those scenes, a low word count wasn't too terrifying for me either. But I do know that it can scare off an agent. So you know, for pitch wars it wasn't as big of a deal, but when querying, high or low word counts might.
That's a almost instant scare off for agents. I mean, I've interned for 2 agencies, and when we go through the slush pile, word count is important in the agency inbox. In pitch wars, not as much, because that's the idea, is to get mentored into getting the book into the right place. It's about taking good potential and raw talent. So I don't think it's as important, but in the agency inbox, it's a big red flag.
All right. So.
Oh, I just noticed Joy just said she agrees. Agreed about easier to cut than add. I had several submissions that were word counts in the teens, not verse novels, and some of them were lovely writing and concepts. I'll encourage them to develop further.
Yes.
I just steal the microphone, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. So, and I did send an invite to Joy to join us on the video. I think Joy, if you click over on the side of your Google Plus things, that invite should come up. Go to Hangouts, and you should be able to join us, I hope.
Oh, I had a tweet saying Mary Beth is watching it now, but she can't figure out how to ask questions from her phone. Any ideas?
Well, she could ask one of us on Twitter, and we could check our Twitter feeds and look for questions there as well.
I can do that if you like. Any
All right.
questions? If you want to at me, so Veronica doesn't have 700 screens she has to dive between. If you want to at me on Twitter with a question, I'll bring it up on the Google Hangout. Yes, that's what it's called. Yes. Tell this is my first time. I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah, I think we're just kind of both muddling through here.
As long as nobody has to sing, then we're all right.
You've
got an awesome question.
If I get Veronica, if I get picked and then win an agent at the end, can I have your couch? No, this is my couch.
I've been admiring your couch from the start, going, that's so pretty.
Yes, I picked out this couch when I was getting ready to start revisions on my first manuscript because I needed something nice and comfy that I could sit on and cozy up into. And it's beautiful and I love it.
Oh, I tend to write. I don't get off my sofa. I used to set up my writing desk, and then I was there for so many hours that I got so uncomfortable. So now it's lie on the sofa, laptop on legs for like 14 hours. Go to sleep. Repeat and rinse every day.
All right. Let's see. We've got some questions piling up here. Any advice for navigating the line between age groups, middle grade to YA, YA to NA, etc.? How do you deal with a manuscript aimed at, say, 13 to 15 when they're right in between?
Do you want to answer it, or will I go? You go first.
Well, that is a tough one. I had my middle grade novel that I wrote is actually it went back and forth and straddled the lines quite a bit until I finally nailed down the voice and made it strongly middle grade. But I have seen middle grade novels that deal with an older, 13-year-old or something. And I've seen younger YA that deals with that age range as well. I think if you're going for that age, then you kind of need to go with the voice of your manuscript and the topics covered to decide whether it's higher middle grade or younger YA. And I think the same thing goes with YA to NA. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Fiona?
With age genres, I think the most important thing is the tone and the theme that runs behind the books more than just the age of the protagonist. Because you get adult books that look at teenagers, you get middle grade books that look at younger teenagers, you've got YA books that have got an adult influence in them, and it's all to do with the tone and the theme. Middle grade tends to look at more the immediate world outside of the MC, finding their place in that immediate outside world. Young adult can tend to go more into the internalized part of how the character feels about themselves and how they see themselves in relation to not just their immediate outside world, but a larger sphere. New adult moves sort of into that theme of finding out who you are as an adult, making choices with a greater degree of severity to them. They've got more weight to them. So I think that between the age categories, it's more to do with your theme and your tone than it is to do with the age of your protagonist only. Age does play a part, but if the age is very different to the tone, look at your tone and your theme, and that should help you find where your book falls in.
Yes. And Joy also answered that question. She said, Shannon, that line was a consistent issue in the middle grade inbox. Quite a few things that were middle grade concept, but YA voice. As far as advice for it, it may help to think about how kids read up. So 13 to 15-year-olds are reading YA. A 13-year-old main character is being read by 10-year-olds. So you have to keep that in mind.
I noticed that comments from mentors about the middle grade, some of them needed to be either changed slightly in voice and tone. There was even a really lovely young adult book entry that would have been, there's a debate on whether it should be adult or whether it should be young adult. So it's a hard line to walk.
It is. And that's where a good CP can come in. And also reading a lot in your category. If you want to write middle grade, you need to read a ton of middle grade. If you want to write new adult, read a lot of new adult.
And know what end of the spectrum you're reading in. Know if it's lower MG or higher, or the same with young adult. Try and, when you read a book from an age category, work out where on the spectrum within the age group it falls, and that should give you a good indication of the sort of tone you should be going for.
Right. And we're still trying to get Joy into the conversation as a video.
Has she gone to the Google Plus page and hit the button that I did? Because that's all I did. I went to the Google Plus page and hit the camera button at your name.
Yeah.
And that's all I did.
Joy, are you there? Did you?
There's a question for Natasha. If you want to work on that, I don't mind answering this next question from Natasha. She's got it for you as well, though. Are either of you considering MSCs that have disabled characters this year? Veronica, you mentioned your mentee last year had a disabled character in it. Any this year?
Hang on, I can't type and think at the same time.
Type. I'll answer mine, and then hopefully that creates no silence on the air. I didn't have a lot of disabled characters in my inbox this year. I had some. It's something that I really like. I like the diversity. I wouldn't say what's in my top considerations at the moment, just because I don't want to sort of reveal my hand too soon. But I can say there was a lot of books that I do like have got disabled characters or diverse characters. So they were in my considerations, but I won't reveal how much.
Yeah, and I don't want to give details about the manuscripts that I'm considering, because I don't want to tip my hand too soon. I will say that every single application that I got this year, every single writer in my inbox has talent. And if I give too many specifics, then someone who doesn't fit those specifics might get discouraged. And I'd hate to have a repeat of last year where my mentee was ready to give up and throw in the towel just because I hadn't given enough hints that she thought were her.
Yeah. I know Joy said that Tyler on disabled characters, I don't want to tip my hand on what I'm considering, but I saw a lot of disabled on ASD spectrum in my MG inbox. Sometimes main characters and often their siblings.
Yes.
I just keep reading the question, so Veronica has to chase me and hit the button to show it's being answered. I just like to confuse you while I can.
Yes. And you know what? That's okay.
See, isn't Veronica lovely? And she writes really good books. So if you haven't, go and buy Veronica's book. See?
You are hired as my publicist, Fiona.
I used to do publicity and marketing. I love it. I'm shameless. But it's better if someone else is shameless about you. Authors, don't be shameless about your own work. That doesn't go well. But if someone wants to be shameless on your behalf, that's fine.
Yes. Okay, we have another question from Caitlin. As you make your final picks, how much of your decision is based on how much you think you can help the book during the mentor period versus how much you just love it? I'll answer that one first. A lot of my decision is based on how much I can actually help the mentor or the mentee. I'm not afraid to mentor someone who might not be 100% ready at the end, because my belief is that Pitch Wars is all about the long game and getting that manuscript in the best shape possible. But I will say that there are at least 4 that I've put aside because I love that manuscript, but I don't think I could be the one to help it get to where it needs to go. Either it's already so close to being there that that I would be wasting their time, or someone else is just better for it. And I do have at least one that was at the top of my considerations list until one of the other mentors said, "No, give it to me," and I stepped aside. So, but I will say that there are at least 4 that I've put aside because I love that manuscript, but I don't think I could be the one to help it get to where it needs to go. Either it's already so close to being there that they just... Hear that echo?
Yeah, there's a little bit of playback. I was just listening going, wow, she can talk twice without moving her lips.
Yeah.
I think for me the divide was very 50-50 on voice and how much I could help. There were so many great submissions that I love voice-wise that it's come down to the one that I think I can help the most. I mean, the potential in some of the manuscripts is amazing. There's plenty to choose from. So for me, I looked at what I loved, and then out of those ones, I looked for the ones that I could do the best job with.
I could be the one to help it get to where it needs to go. Whether it's already so close to being there that... Okay. I'm going to look through my windows open, see if I have this video playing somewhere.
Right, but I'm moving her lips. I think for me, the vibe was very 50-50. Wait, it might be mine. It's gone, yes?
Oh, yes.
La 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 la. Me then.
Okay, so I think I invited Joy with the wrong email address. I think that's the issue that's going on right now. So, um, so I'm just waiting to hear from her.
I like how Brenda has reminded us someone has YouTube on playing in another window, maybe. Yes, that was me. So it's now not playing. I didn't want to put that window off in case it kicked me out. And then I realized that I don't need that window. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's try this. Let's see if I can find Joy here. In the meantime, while I'm trying to find her, do we have another question?
Okay, what do we have other than telling me I'm an idiot because I left YouTube on? There's a lot of comments to me like saying, "Did someone leave YouTube on?" Quite a few of these questions we've answered, I think. Have mentors discussed subs with each other a lot? Yes, yes, and yes. There's been plenty of discussion about the submissions in terms of what suits a mentor, perhaps some things that we've checked with each other if they're the best match for it, or if there's something in it we're not sure about, we've ran by the opinion of the other mentors. It's such a huge database of experience with the mentors. There's 75 mentors. So we really use that to our advantage. We talk to each other and say, I've got a concern about this. What do you think? Or I really like this. What was your opinion? It's just good to get as much feedback as possible because that's what can really help the mentees. Is it's although you submit to 4 mentors, you pretty much have the whole gang sort of working things through and getting opinions on things, whether it's to do with the book or the market or what the agents are looking for. So we do talk about it quite a lot.
Yes. And there's a lot of back and forth on ideas for different submissions as well. Sorry,
But then saying that, there's a lot that comes down to personal taste. You might find one mentor really likes an aspect and another mentor not so much, but then it's the same with agents and it's the same with editors. So sometimes you might find you talk something through with another mentor, but you don't have the same opinion. It doesn't always mean that you're going to say, right, that mentor's not sure on something, so I won't choose it. You might actually think, well, I like it, and I think my agent would like it, or the editor I know would like it. So you just kind of get a data feedback because the more information you have makes an informed opinion for who you choose to mentor for the competition.
Yes.
Oh, there's an awesome question from Amy. Are you 3 nervous about your picks not wanting to go with you? However, with you all talking to each other, is it not possible for a mentee to receive 2 mentors? Has anyone ever said, no, I don't want to work with the mentor who chose me?
I've never known it happen. uh, that someone uh, didn't want to go with the mentor who chose them, but that is a fear of mine, and that's one of the reasons that I get really nervous looking in other people's slush piles. Um, last year there was one manuscript that I desperately wanted. I had talked to the mentee on Twitter before the submission windows opened, and he had told me about his manuscript, and I wanted it so badly I could taste it. And then he didn't apply to me, and it just crushed me. And I read the pages in someone else's box, and oh, I loved it. Then of course I read the manuscript of the mentee that I chose, and that became my all-time favorite from last year. But yeah, it was crushing, and I thought about jumping into the fray and to this first one and saying, please pick me instead. But I worried that the reason he didn't apply to me was because he just didn't want to work with me. And I later talked to him and found out that he thought that I wanted something different, and so he had planned on submitting to me, but then thought, oh, but she won't pick me, so he picked someone else. So
I must admit I had a similar thing last year. There was a submission that I knew I would have loved to have got my hands on. However, it wasn't sent to me. I just seen it from sneaking through the inboxes and having a look, which I'm really glad that we don't do that this year. We can share, but we can't go snooping, because snooping is a bad thing, because I seen one and I really loved it. And I was really fortunate that I found something else in my own inbox that I loved just as much. I had much the same sort of experience as Veronica. I'm terrified that my chosen mentee won't want to work with me, but only because I know I want to work with them so badly. Like, I pick someone who I believe in 100%, and I keep in really strong contact with anyone that I've worked with in the past, because if I love their work, it means that I'm really invested. But saying that, there are so many amazing mentors in the competition that mentees can't go wrong. You always end up with the perfect match. Even if you don't think so as a mentee, maybe you've got a favorite mentor in mind and another one picks you, you always find the person that's in love with your book. And that's really what you want.
Yes. And Joy answered and said, I'm not nervous because I'm picking from people who submitted to me. So obviously they chose me. I suppose it could happen if they got picked by someone who they didn't sub to, but they'd sure be wasting an opportunity. And yeah, that's pretty much what we've been saying.
The struggle is if two mentors want the same submission and they've both been applied to. What's your thoughts on that? How nervous are you if you have to go up against another mentor for a submission that's been applied to at the same time?
Oh, I am so nervous. There's one on my list right now that's in my top 5, and another mentor is also really fighting for it, and it may come down to a battle where the mentee has to choose between us, and I'm just so nervous that it won't be me.
I'd love to know what Joy thinks of that situation as well. So if Joy, if you could tell us what you think about going up against another mentor that's also been chosen, because that terrifies me, because there's one in my sort of top pile that another mentor really loves as well, and part of me thinks I should concede that and say they should have that, but I don't want to because I love it and I think I could help it very much. But if I send a message saying, please pick me, and they don't, I would be heartbroken. But happy that they got the right match for them. I have to remember that. It's about the mentees first and foremost.
Yes. Oh, Natasha is pointing out to us that we sometimes have been attributing to the questions to the wrong person. The name is below the question on the...
That she tweeted that to me as well, so I'm guessing probably me too. I'm really bad at this.
Well, this is your first hangout entirely, and this is my first time doing anything other than just sitting and looking pretty. So
we coordinated that well.
Yes.
Let's do something we've both never done before.
Yes. We'll let everyone laugh at us.
It's just good I can't hear them.
So Amy wanted to clarify, I'm not asking because I feel this way, just so you know. I love the 4 I picked. I'm just putting stuff out there that might happen. Yeah. Oh, Joy answered. She said, I'm not nervous about warring either because I love my top 2 equally. So if I lost out on the one I've slotted as my top, I'd be equally happy with my other top. If I lost both of them, that would be a bummer.
That would be a bummer.
Yes. And I've seen that happen too.
I don't think that's happened before, has it?
Well, I don't know if it's happened in Pitch Wars. I know it's happened in other contests.
Oh, I would cry. But then, to be fair, this year there is so much high quality. The top 10 I like in my inbox, I would happily work with any of them.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And there are some that are not currently on my top 10 list that I still keep thinking about, so I don't know, they may be jockeying for position.
Some of them don't let go, do they?
Yeah.
I just think September feels so far away. I want to get started.
Oh, but I'm so far away from making a final choice. I don't want September to get here quite yet. Oh, thanks, Natasha. She says we're both doing great.
Thank you. I've not managed to hang up yet, so I'm happy.
Last night I actually did on accident.
Hey, good skills. I did that to an editor once on Skype. I hung up on her 3 times. I was on Skype to the editor, and she's talking to me about ghostwriting work, and 3 times I hit the keyboard and hung up. And then the 3rd time, she's like, seriously, you need to stop hanging up on me. Like, sorry.
And Natasha said, since we get to pick 4 mentors, hang on just one second. I have a phone call.
Okay. Natasha, because your name's below Natasha, because I can see that now. Since we get to pick 4 mentors, I would hope that you'd only pick the mentors you'd want to work with. I would love to work with anyone. I think that's a great attitude because there's so much experience between all of mentors. I mean, I know that I try and strong arm mentors into reading my own pages. I'm like, hello, will you read my book? Because there's just so much skill and talent from the mentors themselves that even as a mentor, I'm in awe of all of them. I just keep feeling really special that I get to talk to everyone.
I feel like I'm part of the cool kids club.
Me too. I don't feel like I'm supposed to be here, but it's really good.
I sometimes feel like I'm that kid in the high school lunch cafeteria who snuck my way onto the cool kids table. Any moment they may look over and go, "You're not supposed to be here."
Oh yeah, I'm with you on that. It's like I was reading some pages from Lauren Spieler, and she said, "Send me your pages," and I read them, and I was like, I love that I've read these, but I'm also now terrified because you're a really good mentor and you like the same pick as me because she really is a great writer. I think it's a kind of, I'm in awe and terrified of all the other mentors at the same time.
Hang on. Still trying to get Joy in here. I have her as I've
just
found her on Google, but she's
there's a question in from Brenda. Hello, Brenda. Because you're one of those people that I feel really scared of talking to. You're lovely, but you're also really Brenda. So I'm like, yay, hi, Brenda. She says, what are some of the mistakes you see in the submissions that you feel are easy fixes and wouldn't be a no necessarily, but could help those going on to querying? Okay, for me, a lot of the pages were much better than the queries. I find that new writers try to fit too much in their query or they're completely vague. It seems to be quite across the spectrum. They want to keep too much mystery in the query, so you get sort of a few vague, mysterious sentences. And then on the other side, I found quite long queries that detailed far too much of what was going on in the book. So the queries I didn't look at all because the query I'm happy to deal with straight from scratch. The biggest mistake for me is not showing your conflict and your stakes, particularly the stakes, because say this is my character, this is the conflict, and then I'm left wondering, going, why do I care about your character? Not in a mean way, just in a way that how can I relate to your character and be invested? What does it mean for me to care about this conflict for them? And it's not just some people go, oh, he might lose his life or death. It's not that. The stakes can be something really small, but really, really important to that particular character. And I've seen that missing in a lot of queries. That would be my biggest mistake, I think.
And that was the biggest mistake that I saw as well, that the queries, I saw a lot of queries that had too much of the wrong thing. The stakes were either non-existent or very, very vague, but there was a lot of plot. It was like reading a mini synopsis without telling me why I needed to read, why I wanted to connect with that character, what made it unique. Or
it'll be a while.
So, but queries, the same for me. I wasn't scared off by a bad query or.
I would in the agency inbox, I would be, because the time restraint for an agent in the inbox, the query needs to do its job. But for the scope of pitch wars, yes, it's nice to get a good query, but I know that nearly all the mentors just went straight to the pages anyway. So that's something that pitch wars can work on.
Yes. Another from Brenda, what steps do you take while editing your work that can help those entering the editing process? She says she has a 3-step system. What's yours?
Do you want to go?
Process, oh, do you want to go first?
No, I was saying you go, you go. I'm intrigued.
My process for editing, after I finish a draft, before I start editing, I set aside 1 or 2 days, depending on how deep I need to get into the edits. I set aside 1 or 2 days for binge reading, and I will read a stack of books in the category and genre that I'm writing. um, just to kind of clear my head of my own words and to really see the difference in voices within that category and genre. And I read anywhere from 3 to 10 books over a 48-hour period, maybe. And then I go back to my manuscript so that I can, and I read through it once, just as if I was reading, as if it was part of my binge reading, as if it was written by someone else, and I read through it, and anything that doesn't work, I mark it so that I can come back to it later. And I do a lot of reading aloud for the dialogue, especially to make sure that it flows and doesn't sound. I figure if I feel silly reading it out loud, then there's something that's not quite working.
Oh, that's good.
And then it really helps to have a good critique partner who I can then send that edit to and get feedback on that as well.
Shall I go?
Yeah. What do you?
Like just sitting here listening, and then I'm like, oh, am I supposed to say something? I think for me, I used to be a pantser when I wrote, so I used to have to edit loads. But now I'm actually a heavy outliner, and I kind of edit while I go. But when it comes to my editing after I've got my draft done, I always set my book aside for quite a while. I need to get rid of it, and I do anything else that is unrelated to my writing, whether it's critiquing for other people or reading or going out. I get away from it first. When I come back to it, first thing I always do is write down my character's goal, their conflict, and their stakes, and I go through my whole book with only that in focus. Who is my character? What is her goal? What are her stakes? And is it in every single scene of my book? And anywhere it's not, it either needs to be put in or it needs to go. So that's always my first round edit. My second round edit, I go through looking for my plot arc and making sure my plot arc and my character arc are secure from start to end. However, before I go anywhere else after that, I send it to my critique group. I've got a 6-person critique group. We've been together for 2 years, and so far we've had 5 of us agented, 2 of us published, and we started all as nobodies, but we know each other's writing and we know each other's strengths and weaknesses. So I go through that. Once I get that feedback back, I go through my book once more with the feedback, and I look at all my line edits and anywhere I can improve, my description, my dialogue. I love the idea of knowing if it sounds silly, that it's wrong, because I read my dialogue out and sometimes I feel silly, so I'm going to remember that from Veronica. If it feels silly, there's something not quite right. So I got tips too, yay. And the last thing I do is I send it to a reader that's never read my work. I'm constantly making friends in the industry and in the writing community, and I'll send them a book that they've never read my work because I want a complete outside opinion. A lot of my critique partners know my work. I know my work too well. So sometimes my very last edit before I send it to my agent is from someone who has never read my work before, so I can get a completely fresh take on it. And then I wait for my agent to tear it apart and tell me where to fix it.
And that's a really good point, sending the manuscript to someone who's never read it. I do that a lot. I did that a lot also with my queries. When I was trying to get my query just right, I made sure to send it to people who had no idea of what my book was about and get their feedback. Because if they completely got the wrong idea of the story from it, then I knew something wasn't working in my query.
It's funny because even your critique partners can not get the greatest take on your query because they know your book, so they join the dots by themselves. So I'd agree, a new reader for a query is really important because they don't know your book, so they can't put together those little dots that your critique partner can or you can. That's really good advice.
Right. So we're still having trouble getting Joy on here, but she said that one of the common mistakes that she found a lot of familiar premises, so that you have to make sure yours stands out and be sure in the query that it's clear how yours is different. Be sure you're telling the story only you can tell. That's not always an easy fix, but it was very common. And I agree with that.
Yeah. It's funny because I was at a workshop once and the editor said that most people's first ideas for a book are also other people's first ideas for a book. So to sort of stretch yourself and look to see how you can make it uniquely yours.
Yes. Yeah, because there are so many takes on the same idea. And just having the same idea does not mean that your book won't stand out. You just have to show us what makes your book stand out. What makes your book about sparkly vampires different from all the other books about sparkly vampires.
Ah, sparkly vampires. Melting. Melting. Sorry, no offense to sparkly vampires.
Okay, so I think David is teasing us about our time zone issues. So if it's 2 p.m. in Dublin, what time is it where each of you is located?
In Cyprus, it's now 20 past 8. I had to check the clock. It's 20 past 8 in Cyprus.
Yes, and it's 20 past 11 here. So if it's really 2 p.m. in Dublin, that's...
My idiot is showing through on live feed. I forget this is live and now everybody knows that I'm a complete idiot.
But he did have an actual question too. Do you write in just one category at a time, or might you jump back and forth between, say, middle grade and YA or YA and adult? I personally jump back and forth. I write picture books, YA, and middle grade, and I will write. I'll write one manuscript and get to where I hit a stopping point or I hit a wall, and then I'll put that aside and switch gears to one of my other manuscripts, whether it's in the same category or whether it's in a different category, and I just keep going. That's how I deal with writer's block. I have found that after I've been working on one of my picture books, because a picture book has to be so tight and every single word is important, then when I go back to my YA or middle grade, it makes the editing so much easier because I'm hyper-focused on the pacing and the plot and getting just the right word in just the right place. What about you, Fiona? Do you jump back and forth, or do you just write one category?
It depends. I tend to keep to one category when I'm thinking about my career. I tend to go for my ideas that fall within that. At the moment, I have a 12-book series in folklore penned out. However, I also cheat on my own manuscripts and write stuff that is really just what I want to write. Sometimes I've got a middle grade I'm halfway through. Will I submit it at some point? Maybe. I don't know, but I just know that I'm really enjoying writing it. Because I ghostwrite, I often write in a lot of different categories. I ghostwrite historical adult fiction. I do picture books and early learner books as well. So Veronica's so right. Every word counts. Anyone who says to you that picture books are easy needs shooting in the head. They are. They do. They're so. You need an entire plot arc, an entire character arc, and you need it in so few words, and it still needs to have depth. Because these are books that need to entertain hour after week, after month, after year. You need to be able to read this story to a child countless times where the kid's not just bored. And in today's modern world of technology, it is so hard to achieve that that's one of the places I like to go and play with when I'm working on tightening up my writing and getting my writing really crisp. So I will dot around, sometimes for my freelance work, sometimes for my own fun. But when it comes to when I focus on my branding, because obviously as you write more, sometimes as an author you want to maybe focus on a certain area, then I'll go and I'll focus on that. But I would say that don't ever write something just because you have to write it or just because you think that's where your career should go. And if you do want to write on a career branding sort of thing, do cheat on your MS. Do go and write things that are also that really inspire you, regardless of genre.
Yes, I agree. Have an answer from Joy here about the editing process. She says, I draft fast, plowing forwards, so when I'm done, I get a ton of notes I've made along the way of things that I need to happen. So I revise those things, then do another pass and send to CPs. Oh, Joy's coming in. Maybe she can tell us herself.
Oh my gosh.
That's
really exciting. I only see a grey square, but apparently I'm believing that Joy isn't a grey square, so that means I can't see her yet. Okay, I'll be back in just a moment. I have to deal with the barbecue. Hold on.
All right. Hi, Joy.
Hi.
All right. I was just reading your comment about editing. Why don't you tell us your editing process?
Yeah, so I draft really fast and to sort of plow forward, and if I realize in the 6th chapter that something should have happened differently in the 3rd chapter, I don't go back and fix it. So as I go, I make a lot of margin notes just saying, go back to that 3rd chapter and make this happen differently. So by the time I have a first draft, I have a whole long list of things that I already know need doing. So I go and I do all of those things, and then I usually do probably one more pass sort of smoothing things out, and then I send it to critique partners. And my critique partners know that I'm always looking for story and character and sort of overall voice stuff. But I'm not concerned really with finessing the prose at all at that point. I just want to get the story right. Once I've gotten critique partner feedback, revised for that, then I start to go after the prose, make sure the voice is consistent and everything is just exactly worded how I want to. So I have several layers for that. I mark up a hard copy, I read on a Kindle, I read it out loud. So yeah, it's just multiple levels of editing after that point.
Yeah. And I think everyone has a different process for editing, and I think that's the key, that there is no one right way to do it.
Now that I'm in and I have the picture, I can't see the questions anymore. Any idea what happened to them?
Yeah, go over onto the, point your mouse onto your left-hand side of your screen, and there should be a menu that pops up, and click the Q&A button, and then it'll put it up for you.
It took you an hour and a half to actually get me on video, so it'll take another hour and a half to figure this out. Oh, Q&A! I can read!
Oh, Diana says, I shall make it.
I'm almost back. I'm almost back. I just plugged in my laptop. I am. I was sorting barbecue and moving rooms so that my husband can get the living room. So I just need to go plug in.
Okay.
Hi, Amy. see you saying hi, Joy. And there was a question about, do we switch between categories, right?
Yes, yes. Why don't you
Yeah.
answer that one?
So I have always, well, I started as a playwright for a long time, and then I switched to middle grade, and I wrote 6 middle grade manuscripts. Took me 5 to get my agent. But I only recently finished my first YA. And I didn't go back and forth. Well, actually, I did. So I would write my YA in little bursts between middle grade manuscripts. And then it was too hard, and it was a really difficult emotionally manuscript. And so I'd write little bits of the YA, and then I would write a middle grade that was a lot more fun. But I most recently decided I was going to finish that YA or set it aside forever. So I finished it, and it's going to go on sub soon. But then I think I'm going back to middle grade.
So Amy says she has to go. Bye, Amy.
Bye, Amy.
Diana said that she'll make a game that's an interactive picture book. We'll all work on it together.
Oh no, I can't see you, Veronica or Joy. Where did you go? Oh, I can see you, Veronica. Oh no, I can't. It keeps going and coming. Oh no. Oh, I can see you. Why do you keep disappearing? Is that me?
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a ninja.
Okay, I'm going to log out and log in. Give me just 2 seconds.
All right.
I was sorting laundry here, so if you see a sock fly through, that's...
Did we answer Belinda's question? Have you had any surprises in your inbox? Something you weren't looking for, you thought you wouldn't want, but read it and thought, wow?
I didn't have any surprises, except I was a little surprised by some people who sent me the only genres I said I didn't want. That just feels like a wasted opportunity, so that was a bummer. But otherwise, no, I mean, there was a lot I said wow about, but not because it was a shock or anything, just because it was great.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and I think I already answered that and said that I got a lot of my wish list, so I was happy about that.
Oh, I can see you, and I can see Joy. Hi. I think it was my computer being an idiot.
So, let's see, what other questions? Sarah said, there was one mentor I was so close to picking, I considered you two as well, and a different mentor's wish list matched up with my manuscript better, so I didn't pick her, and I felt awful. She sort of called me on it too, but nicely, and I felt so bad. Hard choices.
Oh. Yeah, see, that's
it is tough, and I kept telling people before the submission window that there really were no bad choices, because I'm in awe of the mentors. There's so much talent, and so only being able to choose 4, it's hard, and yeah, I wouldn't have been able to choose just 4.
Oh my gosh, choosing mentors is really hard. I would have chosen everybody, even if they weren't in my category.
Yeah, when people, when mentors are worried that somebody won't want to work with them, or they're hurt that somebody didn't apply to them, man, I just think they could only pick 4, and there was so much awesome, and I'm sure that they, just like we have more manuscripts that we love that we can choose, they probably have more mentors that they wanted to choose than they could, and so then to maybe get picked by someone they didn't get to sub to, maybe you were number 5 right there, the next one they were going to pick.
Right.
So, okay, can I ask you guys a question?
Yes.
Have you guys picked? Are you guys ready?
I have not picked yet. I've narrowed it down, I think, to my top 8.
Oh my gosh! So you've got some reading to do, or is it still you're just deciding?
Yeah, I think at this point it's mostly just deciding. I may have to go request some pages if I can't decide with what I've got. But
Oh,
yeah.
I know. I know.
You know.
I know who's my top pick, but
You're ready to battle, aren't you?
Oh, I can't say, but I know who I want. But I'm wavering on alternates. There's too many really good manuscripts there that picking an alternate's really difficult. But I know that one of the books absolutely captured me in voice, and more than anything, I know how to help it. And I can't get it out of my head, so much so I've read it twice already, which equaled no sleep because I had lots to read and work, and I actually read it twice because I fell head over heels for it. So I know who my top pick is. My alternate is very much in debate. What about you, Joy?
Yeah, I'm decided, and I've got two that I just pretty much love equally. So we'll see how things shake out. But I'm pretty decided, and then I have 3 or 4 in reserve if anything happens, and if I don't get one of those top 2 that I also think are just fabulous. I had a lot that I'd love to work with this year.
I had one that was my top pick until another mentor claimed it. And he was so excited about it that I stepped aside. And then another one that I was strongly considering, and another mentor said, oh, I want that one, and I stepped aside. And I have one that right now that I'm just in love with, and I want it to be my top pick, and another mentor is saying, no, it's mine.
Don't play nice anymore, Veronica.
But this one, I have a lot of thoughts. In just the first chapter, I had 2 pages worth of notes. And so I may not step down on this one.
No, it's called Pitch Wars.
Exactly.
And I'm going to battle.
Do it.
It's a war. Oh, there's a comment there from Diana saying, I felt like an ass because I was subbing YA at first. So I hit up YA mentors with promises. Yeah, I know. Then CP's convinced me to sub as new adult. And when I looked at it, yeah, it was new adult. Yeah, I know, Diana, you were going to submit as YA. I know. So, yeah, unhappy mentor. She came and told me all these lovely things about this lovely book she's writing. And I was like, oh, that sounds awesome. And then she submitted new adult. But you have to go for the genre that suits you best.
I think we all just really want each mentee to find the perfect mentor for them.
Yeah. That's the name of the game, is to get the right matches together.
Yeah. And that's honestly why I stepped aside for the first 2 that I was considering as my top pick, because I could see that the other mentor, as much as I loved those manuscripts, the other mentor was invested. And that's what you want. You want the mentor that's the best for you.
Exactly. There's a manuscript that I loved in my inbox, but it isn't my skill set to help it where it needs help. Every mentor will have skills in different places. Where this writer's strengths are the same as mine. Where their weaknesses are also the same as mine. So I wouldn't have been the best fit for that particular manuscript. I went for something that I knew I could help in the areas where my skills. And I think every mentor is the same in that respect.
Yes.
Belinda
says, I picked people that I didn't know well to begin with. I wanted to make more friends and didn't want it to feel personal. And I think that's a good strategy, because if you're already friends with someone, you could probably talk them into CPing for you.
Yes. I know I ended up making a couple of friends from before the last Pitch Wars, where I actually said to them, there's no point submitting to me because we're friends. Also, it colors your judgment, because I would feel really, really bad saying no to someone that I know. because it's that awkward feeling. So I would rather people that knew me didn't submit to me at all. I'd rather they could ask me for a recommendation of who to submit to, which I'd be more than happy to help them with. But to submit to someone that you know, I'd find that awkward.
Yeah. Last year, I suggested that my CP actually submit to Joy, and it worked.
I'm so glad you did.
So, all right. It looks like our questions are winding down here.
Well, next time we do this, I'll know how to get on.
Yes.
I'm surprised I figured out how to get on at all. Oh, Diana said she's sorry, and I promised to cook you cod with cream and the chocolate cake if you come to Portugal again. Yes, Diana, I will definitely be coming to Portugal, and I will be looking for chocolate cake and a manuscript to read.
Yes.
Last year, my mentee Laura, when we were in the before the selections point, she said something on Twitter about hand knitting me gloves, like she was bribing me to pick her, and I totally thought she was just saying it. But I picked her, and then she sent me the gloves, and I love them.
Yes.
So you may get that chocolate cake, Fiona.
Yes.
I think we've covered quite a lot of the questions, haven't we?
I think that's. Shall we wrap it up?
Sounds good to me. Then I can look at my very burned barbecue.
Yes.
I just laughed at my husband too. He walked past and he's like, barbecue? And I'm like, yeah, it's outside.
Yes. So, all right. Well, thank you, everyone. This was fun.
Oh, it was great fun.
Thanks, everybody. Good luck.
Yeah, good luck to everyone who gets chosen.
Yes.
And even if you don't get chosen, there's loads of learning experiences just being involved with the community. So it's a win-win, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. And remember, if you don't get picked, do not give up. I got my debut novel. I wrote my debut novel because I wasn't picked for Pitch Wars 2 years ago, and it worked. And so I'm a success story just because of that.
Oh, definitely don't give up. I think I submitted more queries than is physically possible in a long period of time before I even got my agent. And actually, I ended up getting my agent through PitchMad. I had an agent like my book and referred it to another agent at the agency. So you never know. It doesn't matter if you get picked or you don't. Just take it as a learning experience. Don't take it as a no, because it's not a no from Pitch Wars. It's just a chance for you to learn and grow and keep pushing.
Yeah.
And I did not get selected for multiple contests, and I got my agent through just regular querying, which is open to everyone. So go for it.
Yes.
Brenda, looks like Brenda asked, how should writers handle themselves on social media?
Oh, with grace and dignity, and with, like how you would be well-mannered if you were in a business meeting, if you don't know someone, if you met someone in a business environment, you have to have that kind of professional, well-mannered air. It's okay if you get to know someone more, you can relax a little bit, but being instantly too over-friendly and can put some people off just a little. I'm a really friendly person, but I like to get to know someone a little first. And please don't all over your social media tell everyone how bad you think your book is and how it's rubbish and how nobody likes it. And I see new writers do this all the time, how you've sent out 500 queries and nobody likes it. Because agents and editors and other writers do look. We're nosy as a profession. We do go on social media, and your agent might have a query and then look on social media and see you for the last 800 posts tell everyone how terrible your book is. And if you think of that as a marketing thing, you've just told 800 people that your book's rubbish. So why would they buy it? So just keep professional on Twitter and on social media. And when you get to know someone, then you can relax a bit. That's what I think.
And I'll just say ditto to that. Exactly what Fiona just said.
Yeah, and in her.
So.
Oh, and did we answer? Shannon asked, on your top manuscripts that you like, will you give reasons why you say no? I don't think we answered that.
Oh, no, we didn't.
I will. I'm trying to give a couple sentences at least to everybody. You know, with the top ones that I don't choose, I think the answer, unfortunately, is going to be the kind that's not very helpful, where it came down to a gut, what I loved more. But in those cases, I'll be telling them that, you know, I think you're great to move forward and query, and good luck to you, you know, and I can't wait to read your book. But yeah, I will be trying to give a few sentences to everybody.
Yeah, and I also will try to be giving a few sentences to everyone. I can't guarantee that it'll come really fast after the contest. It may take a month or so to get to everyone. But I am taking notes as I'm reading the chapters, so.
I think I definitely will give some feedback, particularly to the very top manuscripts I struggled to choose between. I'll second Joy that sometimes it's just a gut pull. That's the most frustrating thing in the world for new writers, but it happens all through the industry because it is subjective. If you compare your favorite books to someone else's, they're not always a match. I can really love a book and really love a different book, and one, if I have to choose, it just depends what pulls me that little bit stronger. I'll give some feedback. For some writers, I might put in some links of where I think they could find resources to help them out a little bit, because sometimes it's not just about a mentor saying, I think you should fix this, or I think that needs to be improved. Sometimes it's just pointing someone in the direction and saying, go and have a look here and see what works for you. So I do know that there will be some replies I have that will have some links in it to help writers as a resource.
All right. Are we done?
I think we're done.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Ta-da.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye.